quite as well as investors would like. Let's turn now to a hot topic, and that is high-frequency trading. The Wall Street Journal reporting high-frequency firms made record profits during last week's volatility surge. Joining us to talk about the state of electronic trading is David Greenberg, the founder of Greenberg Capital and president of Sterling Commodities. Now, that article essentially said that on August 8th, specifically, high-frequency traders had record profits of $60 million in U.S. markets alone. That would translate into an annual gain of $15 billion. And David, you say that it's just going to become more and more in terms of the percent of volume on the exchanges.
So absolutely. And not only what's going to happen is that the moves that you've been seeing now, believe it or not, are going to look incredibly small and slow compared to what's going to happen in the future. Computers are only going to get faster. The algorithms are only going to get faster. And if you think a 400-point move is fast now, wait till you see it in 2 or 3 years from now.
Well, let me ask you this. Is that necessarily a bad thing? If it is a bad thing, could you see, just looping into our conversation at the top about the proposed financial transaction tax in Europe that's being floated, could we see that here if it does get to be a worse situation? Because that would certainly knock some of these guys out of the game.
It would, but it's been brought up in almost every administration in the past 3 decades. We had to deal with it at the exchange. We've been fighting it on the level. Let's see if that actually happens. We've talked about it so much right now. If it does happen, yeah, of course, unless they find a different place to trade where they can do it offshore and not have the tax or something like that, other things will pop up. It's not like in the day where you had a pit or a place in the stock market where you had to go there to get your market. There's enough smart people out there and a lot of people with a lot of money that understand that if they do an offshore exchange that this doesn't affect, it doesn't take a long time for that volume to transfer over.
Hey, David, I'm curious, can you explain simply to the person at home how actually people are getting ripped off by that? Because there's a lot of electronic trading, right? There's algos, there's simple just electronic trading, and then there's the quote-unquote high-frequency trading. What actually is hurting the market, in your opinion?
Well, the high-frequency traders do a lot of quote stuffing. And what it is basically they put in huge orders on either side of the market. And it gives a false sense of where the market is. And what happens is, we always kid around with the exchange, we cancel if close. Well, when we get cancel if close orders, you were probably going to be able to hit the broker on part of it. Now these algos can pull an order out in a nanosecond, in a millisecond. I mean, the new system over at the stock exchange, they just came out with, they raised their percentage by 33%. You can do 1 million quotes in a second.
But how does that affect the market? If there's one big offer, one big bid out there, what's the difference? Okay, so they go away. There's still some institutional bids out there. There's still retail bids.
Yes, but what's happening is they're starting to sweep a lot of the stops. And when people put in, think about the move that we had a couple of weeks ago, or last week. The stock market moves down 400 points. If you're the average investor and you're putting in stops to protect your portfolio, you're going to get hit, and probably before you get the fill, your stock is probably back up, if not higher, than it was. And it's causing a lot of people to get whipped around.
David, oil futures.
Yes.
What percentage, in your estimation, is this high-frequency trading on a daily basis?
I don't know the exact percent, but it's huge. I mean, if you think about it, oil's moved up and down $12 in the past week. We're having delivery on Monday, the 22nd. What has changed in the world so quickly in the last week and a half that went from 98 to 75 to 87, all for delivery on Monday? You don't get moves like that unless it's being manipulated or moved by electronic market. It just doesn't happen.
Mike, got that question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question would be, normally when you start having development in the marketplace, you are going to see something that will come in to normalize the situation. I mean, one of the reasons they would be so profitable in a market like this, volatility usually helps out the profitability, let's say, of market makers, especially when spreads widen out. Wouldn't you expect that as this type of thing happens, that you would see more